Um, One of the things I want to say right away is these videos are simply these very little partial commentaries on my part, especially these opening works from the Bible, which are so profound and so beautiful and so rich that I'm not telling you what they mean. I'm not instructing you on what. I'm just giving you my thoughts. Now, later on, when we read things that are more technical, when we read things that are more about argumentation, I will try to do more specific work in these videos to help you out. As it is, reading something like Ecclesiastes, I feel humble before it. I mean, it just, there's, what I'm trying to say is there's so much here that don't go by what I'm saying. Read the thing. You'll be a better person for reading Ecclesiastes. It's a very challenging text, and it's also a very quotable text. If you read contemporary novels or, I don't know, there's a favorite episode I have of Star Trek that is the title comes from Ecclesiastes, and there's a great novel by Edith Wharton, a great American novelist that takes things from Ecclesiastes, and Hemingway, and it's just such a wonderful text, and also again challenging and pessimistic. So there's so many themes that are here, and so many wonderful quotable things that I couldn't possibly. So, but I just wanted to point out one thing here, very famous. Verse 11 of chapter 9, right here. I returned and saw under the sun, but the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. It's time and chance. This is a theme that you'll see scattered throughout Ecclesiastes, and what it seems to be saying is that don't expect the world to be fair. The race is not always to the swift. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race. The battle is not always to the strong. The strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. That's just the way things are. The smartest person doesn't always get the best grade. The funniest people in the world don't always become the comedians. Which is particularly interesting. I mean, I can't watch stand-up comedy because I grew up with my sister was 10 times funnier than that guy. I mean, and she never made a dime. Like in that. You know what I mean? I mean. This is a theme that you'll see throughout, that the rich and the poor don't always get what they deserve in this world. That just people sometimes are destroyed, and that unjust people sometimes prosper. I think I can find that. I hope. Maybe not. Um, yeah, this is verse 15 of chapter 7. Uh, All things have I seen in the days of my vanity. There is a just man that perisheth in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man that prolongeth his life in his wickedness. We live in a world in which the good people are sometimes destroyed and the wicked people prosper. Anybody can see it. That's part of having an adult view of human life, is that it doesn't always work out the way it should. And this is vanity, he says. This is part of the emptiness. This is part of the meaninglessness. This is part of the human comedy. But despite that, I find, despite that, uh, this is again back to chapter 9, verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, no device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, whither thou goest. Despite the fact that the world is probably an unjust place and the good are not always rewarded and the wicked are certainly not always punished, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. Whatever you're doing in life, do it as hard and as best as you can, is the advice, which is just tremendously good advice. Like, all right, maybe you didn't get into the school you wanted to go to. You got into another school. Well, you know what? Make the most of you that you can of being at that school. Maybe you got a job in a place rather than maybe you wanted to move to San Francisco or Paris or or Rio de Janeiro and live there, but you ended up getting a job in Peoria, Illinois. Well, you know what? Make the most of that as you can. Live the best life you can within what you're given. I mean, it's such tremendously good advice, and it's a work of pessimism. There's no doubt. The motto of this book is "All is vanity, vanity of vanities. All is vanity." But within that, there's some ethical advice which I find to be really pretty amazing. There's some other ethical advice that I think you're not bound to agree with everything that's said in any book, and certainly not in a book like Ecclesiastes. Very famous thing that's said about the lion, the dead lion. This is, again, chapter 9, verse 4. For to him that is joined to all the living there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. Pretty amazing stuff there. I mean, basically saying, it's better to be alive than to be dead. Because the dead, there's no real belief in an afterlife in Ecclesiastes. It's a firm belief in God. But if you grew up Christian or Muslim, you might have thought that everyone who believes in God believes in an afterlife, and that's certainly not true. The books of the Bible are very unclear about whether there's an afterlife at all. And here it's saying, better to be a living dog than a dead lion. I mean, being alive is really much better than being dead, because for the dead, it's all over. There's nothing left. Where living, there's hope. I don't know if everyone would agree that it's better to be a living dog than to be a dead lion. Maybe you prefer to be a dead lion. I can certainly think of many people who would. There's all sorts of stuff in here which is questionable in my mind in terms of advice on how to live and how to deal with political power and things like that. But it's all thoughtful, and it's all, like I said, it's a great challenge. And I can't help but saying that the end of the book is something that you should pay a lot of attention to. I don't know if there's really a lot of ethical advice here in chapter 12, but it's probably the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my life. I guess it's in translation from the original Hebrew, so I really wish I could read it. I don't read any Hebrew, but this chapter 12, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. And what follows is just mysterious and poetic, and it's about death, and it's about the finitude and transitoriness of human life, and it's poetry, and it's really quite wonderful. So I hope that you enjoyed reading Ecclesiastes if you hadn't before. It's a very surprising book of the Bible. It is an instance of ethical instruction in the ancient world. It's a unique instance of it. I don't think there's anything quite like Ecclesiastes, but it is definitely that. It's the kind of literature that people used to produce or people used to read for ethical guidance, and they still do.